Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit about remote scripts today, this beautiful Tuesday morning, um, because when I'm working in Ableton, I've got some MIDI controllers, and I want to MIDI learn stuff, and then there are certain things that I cannot MIDI learn. So if we go into MIDI learn mode by pressing Command M, we can see what we can MIDI learn. For example, what we can do is click on these slots, and then we can assign keys to them. And then when we press those keys on the keyboard, we go to those slots. Well, you can imagine that if you have a lot of clips in here, that's not gonna work, because then you need a lot of keyboards. Plus, it's gonna be very hard to manage that. So what I wanted to do is to navigate like this in there, and now I'm pressing the arrow keys on my keyboard, by the way. And there are multiple ways of doing this. Actually, there are quite a lot of ways of doing this. I'm gonna disable this right now. And the first and easiest, I think, is to get a control surface, a MIDI controller that is just made to do this, like an APC or a launchpad or anything like that. That will work instantly. The second option, which I also like, is done through Boom MIDI translator, and it's this software right here. And right now I've got it hooked up to my keyboard. And what I can do here is I can learn a new translator, and then I'll say I capture MIDI, and then I press a button, and then we can see all these values that my MIDI keyboard is sending, and we can see it in a code, which is a hexadecimal code. We can see that we have aftertouch on channel 14 selected on a note D sharp 3 with a value of 5. Well, I don't want that, so I'm going to scroll all the way to the beginning and say 9D, which is a note on message. And it's on channel 14 and has a velocity of 8. And I want it to accept all velocities, so I'm going to set the variable PP. So now it has a velocity. It doesn't matter which velocity I hit it. So that's the first step. Now we have set the button that we want to use, and then we can skip this rule section and go to the outgoing section. And here we can say what we want to do with that button. So we can say press this key, the right arrow, all right, and then I'm gonna save this. And then now when I press a key on my MIDI keyboard, it will go to the right, and this way I've made buttons that can go left, right. There's one button that allows me to go to the other window, to open the device view, I think. There. So this works, and it's a bit difficult, but it works. You have to get used to the system, and you can make it as complicated as you want. For example, it can be a little bit more complicated for key combinations, and once you get into rules, which is sort of a code that that allows you to do additional stuff to the incoming MIDI. So you can, for example, filter messages out or do multiple things. So this is a very advanced program, and it works great. That's the second option. The third option, I think, which is the option I prefer most, is control remote scripts. And if we enable it, if we go to preferences and we go to control surface, we can see this whole list here of supported control surfaces. This list, where does he get this list from? Well, if we go to the applications on a Mac, I think Windows, it will be program files. I'm a bit rusty on my Windows. Then we can say show package contents, and then we go to contents, and then we go to, I think, app resources, and then MIDI remote scripts. And here we can see the same list. So these are all the remote scripts, all the control surfaces that are supported by Ableton, and we can click on one, and then we get these Python files. Python files are pretty difficult to read. This one doesn't open. Let's open it in a text editor. But basically, what these files are saying is it's just sort of like a controller for Ableton. It's rules for Ableton. So Ableton reads this file, and he knows what to link with what. So he knows, for example, that if I have my mod wheel, what that should do, because the text file is telling him what that mod wheel should do. So it would look a little bit like this. We have the encoders, transport controls, stuff like that, but you can see that it's not decoded the file very well. It's giving me some weird stuff right there. Luckily, a lot of people have been working with this, and there are a few workarounds to work with this files, with these remote scripts. The most easiest option is provided by Ableton itself. We can find that by going to the library, and then I think the preferences. We need to go to the user library, I think. And then we go to preferences. And I think if you're relatively new to Ableton, or if you want it to work well, but you don't feel like you want to do a lot of coding and all that stuff, you don't want to spend your time on that, then I think this option is going to be the most valuable. Because if we go to the preferences, Ableton, and then just live, we see user remote scripts, and this is actually something that Ableton has provided. It has two text files. It has an instant map text, how to, which is just a manual on how to use this system. We kind of skip that for now. And then we have a user configuration text. And this might look a little bit complicated, but it's actually very easy. Here we can see all the things that Ableton can do, like the volume sliders, the bank buttons, the encoders, which is on the device racks, with the track arm buttons, and everything that has a 0 behind it can be controlled by, or sorry, a -1 can be controlled by your control unit. The way you do that is you watch what MIDI message your button is sending, and to do that you can choose, for example, MIDI monitor, and the MIDI monitor is listening to my keyboard, and then when I press a note we can see which note it's sending, and that is the one you want to use here. So for pad 1 note, then we will choose that same channel. I think I have this set to, I need to set this to decimal numbers, then press the key again, and then we can see the channel, which is still 14, and we have the 76 here, and this is the number. So if we want pad 1 note to be 76, we just say that, and then we set the channel right here, and we set the name right here. But everything is explained very well in the file. I think I'm making it more confusing than it actually is. And once you've done that, you can save the file, and you can go to preferences, and then here on the control surfaces you'll see the name of that file that you made. For example, I made the keylab 61 file, and now you never have to MIDI learn anything because it just listens to this file. So then when I go to my MIDI learn mode, I can delete all this and it will still work. So that's the great advantage of MIDI remote scripts, and that's why that is my preferred method. The only downside to the Ableton system is that it doesn't maybe provide you with all the control that you want. There is more that you cannot control with those user remote scripts, but then for the other stuff you really have to go into the heavy remote script world. So I would recommend, if you're starting out, check out the user remote scripts. And if you want more information on the other side of it, I'm also just researching that myself, and I'm still learning in that world. But if you want to know about that, let me know, and I'll try to share what I know about it. And that's it. Yeah, so I hope this was not too boring for you. I just wanted to show you some of the different options. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you next week, hopefully. Thanks. Bye.